Hi, I'm Joey. I'm here with Pastor Scott, and we've brought all of our Bibles because today we're talking about Bible translations. The question came to us, what Bible translation should I use? Which makes sense because when you go to a bookstore and you see all these different versions, it's hard to pick one. Like, which one do I choose? And so that's why we're going to be talking about that today. So, Scott, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, usually when I'm asked this question, I say something like, well, I just use all of them. Like all the mainline modern Christian Bibles, I use them all. And they're usually kind of taken aback, like, really? What do you mean you use them all? Well, I think it's beneficial when you're doing real Bible study to use all of them because they're all using the same sources. It's not that you often hear, oh, well, isn't the one version, more accurate to the original than the other version? Well, not necessarily, because they're all these translations are coming from a different approach when they're looking at the same sources. So one source I brought was my Greek New Testament.
Yeah.
Okay, they're all looking at these Greek New Testaments to formulate what their translation is.
I know one of the differences in translation is some translations are going to focus more on the thought-for-thought perspective of going to the original text. So, okay, what is the thought that's trying to be gathered here? Whereas other translations are more concerned with a word-for-word translation. Okay, so if I see this Greek word, what is that? What's the closest word that translates to it in English? And then there's also translations that try to ride the balance between those two as well.
Yeah.
So with Bible translation, you're going to have a whole spectrum of different things, but they're all trying to take the original text and make something out of it.
Yeah, they're trying to be faithful to the original text. So I would say, they're all good. They're all really good.
Yeah.
But they might differ in places. But they differ in word choice because they're trying to take an ancient language and bring it to our modern eyes and ears to make sense of it.
And speaking of a word choice, we're going to pull up a scripture, 1 Corinthians 2, verse 7, just to see an example of some of the differing translations. We're going to look at the NIV and the ESV, and Scott has a few thoughts on just that one verse.
Yeah, so the NIV says, "No, we declare God's wisdom a mystery that has been hidden and that God destined for our glory before the time began." So the NIV uses the word mystery. Well, the ESV version uses the word secret. Now, which word would be better, right? Well, if you happen to have your Greek New Testament, you would notice that the original Greek word for mystery is mysterion. It's what's called a transliteration. They're taking the Greek word and they're just making an English word out of it. So is mystery really the best word to explain God's wisdom here? Because mystery implies that nobody knows. Right?
Yeah.
But the ESV uses the word secret. That implies someone knows, but not everybody knows. And I think, secret is the better word choice here in this context because God knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he's the one who has that secret. He's the one that knows what's behind that.
That's right.
And so you'll see that with different translations, they'll use different wording, different thoughts in it. But a lot of them can be used really, really for really in-depth study.
Now, the funny thing with this example is that, a lot of people will say, well, the ESV is more accurate than the NIV. Didn't I just prove that point, right? Well, I could go into other examples that go the flip side. So it's just, like I said, I think they're all really good translations.
Yeah.
It's just, this is their approach that they're taking.
Yeah, and I know, Scott and I both use, he starts with the NIV when he's doing his studies, especially for teaching and for preaching. Me, I tend to start with the ESV. It's kind of like we each have our baseline Bibles, and then from there we just spread out. I know, I don't know about you, but for me, if you ever catch me in the middle of planning a lesson, I'll have every single translation I own out on my desk, looking at each one. So I just brought a few to look at. CSB is a really good one. I enjoy that. It kind of rides the line between word for word and thought for thought. And I appreciate that. ESV tends to be a bit more word for word. And then the net down here is a bit more of a thought for thought translation, comparable to the NIV. I really appreciate its vividness, though. It doesn't shy away from being really vivid. And it also has a lot of study notes. 58,506, it says. So that's a really helpful study tool that I would recommend.
Yeah, and those study notes are unique. Here's how the net contributes. So with the discussion of whether we should use mystery or secret, well, the net would say, well, here's what scholars are talking about. It's not going to say, well, it might say, here's why we landed on this.
Yeah.
But it's explaining the discussion behind the word choices. So that's why the Net Bible is actually really helpful. And they did just come out with a new version.
Yes,
so,
they did.
Yeah.
They did. They kind of rebranded and whatnot. But
Yep.
yeah, so we love our different Bible translations. We really do. So what Bible translation should you get? If you have the money, get all of them.
Or, you know what? I find BibleGateway.com is very helpful, or the YouVersion Bible app.
Yep.
Both are free. Both have all the translations, and you can even compare between the two.
Yep. So thank you for joining us. We hope this helps you in your search. So take care.